This is Sirui's Nightwalker T1.2 Super 35 frame Cine lens. This is the 24mm version. It also comes in a pretty cool space gray or metal gray color, but they charge a lot more for that particular color. And I didn't think for a lens, it was necessarily worth spending more money than necessary just to change the color, because what this lens does for the price is pretty incredible. Before we jump into it, full disclosure, I paid for this lens with my own money. This is not a Sirui sample unit, does not have sample written anywhere on it, like a lot of the other reviews I've watched so far of this lens have had on there. So, completely unbiased, I'm gonna let you know exactly what I think. If you haven't heard of Sirui, they are a, I believe, Kickstarter initially backed brand, and they're producing like some of, if not the most affordable cinema lenses on the market. And this lens, the Nightwalker series in particular, comes in a whole bunch of different variants and models, so you can pretty much use it on any camera that you have or want to use it on. Mine, of course, is the E-mount version because I shoot on Sony, but they also have it for X-mount for Fuji. They have it for Canon / Komodo Red RF mount. They have the MFT Lumix mount, and they have the L mount for Leica and Panasonic. So again, wide variety of options, and so you can pretty much use this with whatever you might be shooting on. It's pretty cool to see. And the price is where it gets really crazy, because if you know anything about cinema lenses, you know that they are usually crazy expensive, but not so much here. So right now, Sirui is selling the 24mm version of the Nightwalker T1.2 for 460 Canadian dollars, which is incredible value for money. To give you a little bit of a frame of reference, if you were to buy a Sony Cine lens, you could be looking at upwards of $7,000 just for the lens, which is wildly expensive. And that's like the floor, because I think the prices can go like crazy high, like $20,000, $30,000. So does it hold up? Does it offer the same sorts of features that one of these super expensive Cine lenses does for a fraction of the price? Well, I've had this guy for a few weeks now, so here are my thoughts on it. So first, I'm going to talk about the specs of this lens, but if you want to skip the part where I talk about how it works and what it does, you just want to skip right to my sample footage, and you can just click down in the time code in the description below to jump forward to the test footage if that's more your style. But for those of you who are still with me, it's a T1.2 lens. That is different from an f1.2 lens. F-stops and T-stops are different in terms of what they mean, but in essence, it means that this lens is very good at shooting in the dark. It can let in a ton of light. It definitely outperforms my Sigma and even slightly outperforms my G Master in nighttime performance. And for a lens that is slightly more expensive than the Sigma, but a heck of a lot cheaper than the G Master, that is pretty cool to see. It is a super lightweight, but also extremely well-built prime lens. It is all metal in construction. Feels incredible actually in the hand for a lens that only costs $460. It's very robust in terms of its feel. The throws on the T-stop and also the focus rings is quite nice. It's quite linear, very easy to use, feels quite natural in the hand. Obviously, I shoot traditionally in autofocus. This is a manual focus lens. It was a little bit of work to get used to at first, but it comes quite naturally. And again, it is very smooth to use. Now again, I've gone for the 24mm version of this lens, but there's actually a full range. I believe it goes all the way from like 17 to 75 millimeters, depending on what you're looking to shoot. You know, I traditionally shoot landscapes and, you know, lifestyle, street style photos and videos. So 24 mil, you know, working out to essentially 35 millimeters after crop factor on my APS-C sensor. But depending on what you want to shoot, whether you want to go ultra wide or ultra close, there is a range of lenses that you can pick from, and they're all pretty much the same price, plus or minus like a few percent. So very, very cost effective, and you can buy the whole range if you want to have a full range of Cine lenses. The other thing, like most Cine lenses that this one does, is the aperture dial and the focus ring. They are in the exact same spots across all of the different lenses. So you can hook this up to a cinema rig and you have identical positioning and gearing across the range. So you can just change your lenses in and out, you know, when you're shooting production, full scale production, if you're doing that with this lens, and you're not gonna have any issues. You're just gonna be able to run and gun, swap and go, very much keeping with the comparable, very, very high end and expensive cinema lenses that you can get from other OEMs. Another thing, a very important note, this lens is not weather sealed. So if you shoot primarily outdoors, be careful. You're going to want to put a hood somewhere over your setup so this lens does not get exposed to the elements. Again, that is something that you're probably not going to encounter on a professional shoot, but if you're shooting as a hobbyist, that is going to be a potential problem for you. So that's the specs, but how do I find it has performed? I have really enjoyed my time with this. So because of both the T-stop range and the fact that it is manual focus, you're able to produce some really beautiful appearing videos and photos, even in those low light conditions. So I've been shooting, for example, my dog when it's like black. We have none of the lights on in our house other than like the TV and a lamp in the corner, her body, her face. You can make out all of the details. It's incredible what you can do when you crank it right down in those shots. The other lenses that I have, including my very expensive G Master, can't do that kind of work in that low light. So that is really cool. And that means that this is a very versatile range lens that I can now use to shoot in those super low light conditions. Again, because it's manual focus, you can do the same thing. You can really throw the focus range that you're looking for very quickly with that dial. Just quickly spin the ring and pull in exactly what you're looking to dial into in terms of focus. And you get some really nice speculars and bokeh as well with this lens. Throwing it even in low light conditions, you're getting beautiful bokeh in the background, and you're still getting all that nice detail in the foreground or whatever you're focusing on. And focus breathing is basically zero, which is really, again, crazy for the price of the lens. Again, I think it helps that it is a manual focus lens because you are throwing that focus yourself. You're not waiting for the camera to sort of hunt or the lens to hunt with autofocus functionality. You can just throw it to whatever focus range that you want. So the transition between foreground and back is very smooth and has been super lovely to use. And you get some really cool transition effects. Again, very cinematic. If you're a pixel peeper, I'm not the first one to say this about this lens. A lot of people share this sentiment, but when you are cranked down to T1.2, yes, chromatic aberration is pretty poor until you stop up quite a bit, like T2. And while the bokeh is really nice, it softens some of the features. So if you really were to jump in and deep dive and pixel peep on photo or video shot at that lower T-stop range, you are going to notice some softening happening, that chromatic aberration happening. But for what I am shooting, which is mostly content for social media, such as YouTube, etc., I don't really pixel peep all that much. And so I can live with that. If you were using this, though, to shoot a full-scale cinema production, which is what the lens is designed for, then that's a different story. And that leads me to my final thoughts and opinion on this lens. I have super enjoyed using it. I think this is a really nice lens for someone like me, someone shooting more casual, easygoing content that isn't on a full-scale production and setup and environment and schedule. For a $460 lens that gives you cinema-like quality, I think this is a huge win for Sirui. But chromatic aberration and the softening, especially at those low T-stops, is noticeable. In a professional setting, you really can't settle for that. So that's when those more expensive lenses are going to save you, are going to be the workhorse you need for that job. I would say it comes down to, what tools do you need for your trade? What are you looking to produce? I think if you're looking for the full Monty, the pro grade cinema lens, this is probably one that you might want to test out because it's not going to be a massive expense for you. I think this one is for the hobbyists and the developing, budding content creators. But again, that price point is super compelling. And if you've never tested a Cine lens before, like myself, then it's kind of worth it to just pick one up and give it a shot, because no matter what you think about it, whether you love it or hate it, you're not going to be out thousands of dollars to test out and experience the Cine lens game. Anyways, guys, that's been my thoughts and opinions on the Sirui Nightwalker T1.2 lens. What do you guys think? Let's have a conversation as always down in the comments below. Do you love it? Do you hate it? Do you want to try this lens out? Can't wait to hear what you guys are saying about it. And we'll see you guys again soon in the next video.